Hello everybody, my name is Brandon. Welcome back to Cinefessions, where we talk all things media. So I'm back today with a 4K review, and this time I'm going to be looking at a brand new release from John Carpenter. Not a classic of John Carpenter's, this one from 1996. We'll be looking at Escape from LA with Kurt Russell. So this one is, of course, the sequel to Escape from New York, and this one is often kind of like the redheaded stepchild of the two movies. This one does not get a whole lot of love. So I want to talk about this release that just came out this week. There is some controversy surrounding this release that I will talk about a little bit later on, but I want to talk about my thoughts on this brand new 4K release of John Carpenter's Escape from LA. So let's do it, guys. If you are excited about this video, please give it a like down below. That engagement really does help me out. But with that said, let's not waste any more time at all. Let's dive right into my 4K review of John Carpenter's Escape from LA. So let's talk about the physical release itself. It looks really nice. The slipcover, I think, looks good. It is just the cover art, which you can see here. Exact same thing, but I don't know. It just has this nice glossy finish to it. It looks really nice. So I'm happy with the slipcover. I think that looks good. Would I have liked some additional cover art? Yeah, of course I would have. But for what it is, this is not a boutique release at all. This is just a Paramount release, and I think they did a decent job with the slipcover. Fortunately, mine came with it with no flaws, so that's rare but awesome. And I will mention I bought this off of Amazon, and so let me flip it around here and you guys can see it has a white UPC code or barcode on it here. There's no yellow present, which we'll talk about that when I talk about some of the like audio features on this, because that is relevant, but we'll talk about why that is if you don't already know in just a little bit. So yeah, on the inside, we'll make note there is only the 4K disc itself with no art on it at all, and the digital code, which of course is turned around right now. But there is no Blu-ray disc for this. There's no DVD, no Blu-ray disc. It's just the 4K disc along with that digital code. So if you are one of those people who has not yet upgraded, you might want to hold off on this one just because you won't be able to watch it at all until you do upgrade to your 4K setup. So yeah, that's what it looks like. It's super standard, nothing to write home about. So yeah, let's move on and talk about the movie itself a little bit. So in Escape from LA, we are basically doing Escape from New York, but it's on the West Coast this time. So Kurt Russell returns as the iconic Snake Plissken, and this time around he is trying to save a black box or a basically a doomsday device. He's trying to retrieve it from the island of Los Angeles. So years prior, there was this like 9.6 megaquake that hit LA, and it separated it from the mainland. And so the president, who is a lifelong president, for whatever reason, like the terms are no longer there, the term limits are no longer there, he sends basically the bad guys to LA. And so this island is inescapable. It's almost like an Alcatraz, except it's this like dystopian Los Angeles city. It's a really cool setting, and I like the setup for the whole thing. But it's very much in a similar vein to Escape from New York. So Snake Plissken is tasked with retrieving this doomsday device because the president's daughter actually stole the device from from the president some way, somehow, from his lab, and ended up taking it to her boyfriend rather, in LA. And this character is very much a Che Guevara character. Looks very similar to him, especially when we first see him. But that character is, at that point going to threaten to take over the world and basically shut it all down. They have this like EMP device that will shut down all of society as we know it. Obviously, an EMP will take out all of the electronics, and so it's going to take everything back to the Dark Ages. So Snake is tasked with going in and retrieving that device. What motivates him to do this is that he was infected with this some type of disease that after like 11 or 10 hours, I forget which, it takes over and it will kill him. And so he has no choice. The only way he's getting the antidote for this disease is if he completes his mission and brings the black box back to the president, who will then give him the antidote. So that's our setup here. It's fun. Like, it is exactly what you expect it to be. It's just a big, dumb, over-the-top action movie, and that's exactly what Escape from LA is. So I'm going to set this down. I think where Escape from LA loses some of its luster a little bit is that it feels like a more Hollywood big budget film than something like Escape from New York, which felt a lot grittier and darker. John Carpenter and Deborah Hill wrote this along with Kurt Russell. Apparently Russell wrote like the entire ending to this movie, which I really like the ending. So that's really cool. But instead of it feeling that darker, grittier feel that you have with New York, you have that glossier LA feel, which may have been intentional, but unfortunately it works against the movie because it doesn't allow them to go to turn it up to 11, basically. It stays at maybe a 7 or an 8 in terms of like the crazy factor. And I think when Carpenter does, what Carpenter does best is being able to turn things up. When you look at something like Big Trouble in Little China, which is just a blast to watch, this is not on that same level, of course. They're not trying to make it on that same level, but at points, it really feels like they're kind of going for something goofy, but they don't really go for it. And so it feels like it doesn't have its own identity, whereas something like Escape from New York definitely did. It just felt that dark, gritty, kind of gross, I don't know, feel to it that you would expect a movie from 1981 New York to be. And I really like that setting. This one, unfortunately, is just a little glossy for my taste. But that said, there are some really good performances here. Like you have Steve Buscemi in an excellent role. He's such a great actor, and watching him play this like slimeball, like two-faced character is so much fun. Obviously, Kurt Russell is excellent as Snake. Again, it's a one-note character. He always has this whispery tone as he talks most of the time, and like it's fine. It's Snake, you know what I mean? So it doesn't go on a big character arc, which is totally fine for what we're doing here. This is just, again, a big action movie. Peter Fonda plays another role in this. He's definitely a supporting, a more minor role, but I think he's a lot of fun too. He actually sets up one of the more ridiculous scenes in the entire movie, which you see the Snake and Peter Fonda's character like surfing down the street with this big wave that comes in after an earthquake. It's absolutely goofy, and the green screen effects are so noticeable. And that's another thing with this movie is now that it's in 4K, you have this upgrade in picture quality, you definitely notice, at least I was able to notice like the green screen effects a lot more than I was the first time I watched this, which the first time I watched it, I believe was actually streaming on Netflix years and years ago. Now I don't remember exactly when. But yeah, so you notice that quite a bit here. And that it took me out of it a little bit, I'll admit. It's not terrible by any stretch. I think the CGI is done relatively well, especially for the fact that this is a film from 1996, but looking at it with fresh eyes today, you can definitely notice those special effects at play. There's definitely a message here that they're trying to convey with this script about what it means to be an American, like what it means to be free, because this world that they're living in now, there's like no smoking, there's no red meat, you can't be with women unless you're married, like there's all these crazy restrictions, and like, you know, Snake mentions at the end, he's like, you know, land of the free, he says sarcastically, and so there's definitely a message of some sort at play here, but it really gets lost with everything else. They don't really do much with it. I think from what I remember of Escape from New York, which mind you, it's been years since I've seen that, but I feel like that type of message, that same style of message is just done better in that film than it is here. But it's there. It's not done really well. It's just kind of the small factor in this otherwise like big action film. There's definitely not a lot of depth in this movie. If you're looking for a movie that has characters that start at point A and end at point B with this nice character arc to them, like you're just not going to get that here. That's not what this movie is at all. You start at point A and then it kind of goes maybe to like point A, point 5 or something. Like it's just, you don't get a lot of growth through any of them. Arguably the biggest the character that has the most growth has to be the president's daughter, but it's just so superficial that it doesn't really mean a lot. And at the end of the whole thing, it's kind of entirely pointless because nothing really changes with it, in terms of her character at least. And so it's definitely not a film you watch for the characters, other than Snake, because he's just fun to watch. He's an iconic character and you get to see him come back now, 15 years after the original. That's just fun. That's fun to see. And the actors, it really is the other reason to watch it. Steve Buscemi is excellent. You have Pam Grier in here in this supporting role, and she's so much fun to see. I just love Pam Grier. Bruce Campbell plays a small cameo in this as well, which I wish his role was bigger, but unfortunately he's in there for a short period of time. But I love the makeup work that they do with his character. I think it looks really cool, and some of the other characters around him. It just is really interesting, and I think it's done quite well. Other than that, though, this movie is really just about the set pieces. There are some explosions and kind of goofy scenes, like the surfing scene. There's like this hang glider sequence toward the end of the film, which is just like absurd as well. There's just kind of those crazy, funny, almost odd moments throughout the entire film that, if you're willing to go with it, they can be fun. And I'll admit, the first time I watched this, I think I gave it like 2 out of 5 stars on Letterboxd, but I actually liked it a little bit more this time because I knew what to expect. I was not expecting a straight sequel to Escape from New York. This is a much different movie in tone, and that is super important going into this. You need to realize that in order to be able to appreciate what Carpenter and Deborah Hill and Kurt Russell are trying to do with this one. One other thing I'll say about the set pieces on this, specifically like the big explosion set pieces, is that it feels like it's done on a Hollywood soundstage. And so that just adds to that Hollywoodized, that glossy feel to it, which again detracts from what I would want from a Snake Plissken sequel. You have these set pieces where you can see the background, you see like the buildings in the background, but they look like flats. I don't know if they really were or not, but that's what they look like to me, which a flat is basically just like a painted townscape. You would see it in live theater a lot, which I'm sure it's not. I'm sure it's actual buildings on their soundstage, but it just looked fake is my point. It looked fake. It didn't feel organic. And it just, again, it's glossy, and that's not exactly what I was hoping to get out of this movie. So that's the only other thing I needed to say about the set pieces. While they're fun, they're still definitely Hollywood set pieces. So no, Escape from LA is not an excellent film by any stretch, but it's a fun action movie. I was able to turn my brain off for 100 minutes and have a good time, and really enjoyed some of the acting in it too. I think some of the characters were just fun to watch, which in my book makes a movie worth watching. So while this one is not great, I definitely think it's worthwhile if you are into this type of over-the-top, almost goofy, but not quite goofy enough action film. So last time, like I said, I gave it like 2 out of 5 stars. This time around, I'm going to give Escape from LA 3.5 out of 5 stars. So let's talk about the actual physical 4K release itself. So I'll start with the special features just because if you've watched other 4K reviews, you guys might remember that I don't give the special features any star rating at all, because if there are a lot on there, I will never get to all of them. It's just not going to happen. So I will talk about what's available here though. And unfortunately, there's only a trailer. So this time around, I actually was able to watch all the special features because there's only one 2-minute long trailer. So that was super disappointing. From what I've read, which I can't confirm this because I don't actually have the old Blu-ray release of this film, but from what I've read, there were more special features on the Blu-ray release than there are on this one, which kind of stinks. Like, why can't you just port over the Blu-ray special features to this 4K disc? I don't know, but that was disappointing. So if you're getting this for special features, don't, because there's only a trailer. So that part was disappointing on this release. So let's talk about the visual quality on this release. And fortunately, you do get a Dolby Vision HDR upgrade here. So that automatically is going to make for a better picture quality. Yes, this does look better than the Netflix streaming I watched years ago from what I remember. But I'll be honest with you, I wasn't blown away by virtually any aspect of this outside of those explosions. I think the Dolby Vision really helped those explosions pop, and they looked really cool. The smoke plume afterwards, like just the different blacks and grays in that smoke plume, those looked awesome. And so that is definitely a nod to the Dolby Vision grading on this. That looked great. But the movie itself is just not colorful at all. It's super dark. You're in a dystopian, not post-apocalyptic, but dystopian is the right word. You're in a dystopian world in this LA town, and the visual pops, the color pops are so few and far between. There's a vehicle that they drive at one point that's red. That looked really nice, but other than that, you just don't get a lot of pop with this image. And so it's not necessarily like the 4K disc's fault, because it's just not a colorful movie, but you can also appreciate the Dolby Vision when it comes to the blacks, and I think that's where it stands out. I already mentioned the like smoke plumes. That looked really cool. A lot of this movie is done at night. Almost the entire thing is, actually, I think the entire thing is done at night. And you do not miss any detail in those black sequences or those dark sequences. And so that part, that's great. That looks awesome. But in terms of just like being wowed by the presentation on the audio, visual side, I wasn't. So on the visual side of the house, I'm going to give the Escape from LA 4K disc 3 out of 5 stars. Like, don't get me wrong. It's good. It didn't wow me like some of the other upgrades that I've seen in the past have. Now let's talk about the audio on this release, and that's where things get questionable. So you can see, I already showed this at the beginning. I have a white UPC barcode. What that means is that I have the original pressing of this release. Unfortunately, there's an issue with the original pressing. If on the back you have a yellow bar or like a yellow box around the UPC code, then you have the new pressing that they released. So one reviewer pointed out that there were some dialogue that was mixing in with some of the other speakers. So not just coming from his center channel, but some of the surround speakers as well. So Paramount did some research and they confirmed, yep, there's an issue. And so they actually released a statement on it. So let me put that up on the screen so you guys can see that. So the official statement says that it has come to our attention that there is an English audio encoding error on the new 4K Ultra HD disc of Escape from LA. Paramount has corrected the issue and is immediately creating new discs. However, the initial shipment of discs has reached some retail outlets. So that's how I got mine, because I got mine through Amazon, and mine actually came the day before release. So I was one of the lucky or unlucky ones, depending on how you look at it, few who actually have one with that white barcode, so with the bad disc. Fans who purchase a disc with a white UPC barcode on the package and would like a replacement should email the address there for instructions. The corrected product will be shipped free of charge. If your disc package has a yellow UPC barcode, then it is the corrected version and you do not need a replacement. Then it goes on to talk about how they attempt to release the highest quality products, but unfortunately that was just not the case here. Before I even ended up sitting down to watch the movie, I did email Paramount to try to get the process started because I had no idea what the actual instructions were. And unfortunately, because there is so many requests, the email I got back was like an automated email that says, please wait up to 2 weeks to allow for a reply. So that's a little bit disappointing that it's going to take that long, but I mean, it is what it is. I'm in no rush. It didn't absolutely kill the movie for me when I was watching it, so it is what it is. I'll be 100% honest with you guys. At first, when I watched through the movie, I didn't even really notice that specific dialogue problem. What I did notice, though, was that the speakers, the rear speakers on my audio setup, which I will say again, I have my 2 rear speakers and then my soundbar up front. It is a Dolby Atmos soundbar, and so that might have been why I didn't notice the center the dialogue being split between the front speakers as much, because it is all in one soundbar. But on the back speakers, what I noticed while I was watching was that there was a lot more audio coming through the back, including music and more than just sound effects, but music and things like that, through the back speakers that I don't typically hear. Normally that's reserved for sound effects so that it gives you that surround feel. But I noticed that going through it, and then I got done with it and I went back and specifically listened for the dialogue. While I couldn't notice it coming from my other speakers up front, I did only hear it from the center channel. On the back, I heard the dialogue coming through those rear speakers. And so I don't know if it's only the dialogue that's messed up, because like I said, I was hearing a lot more through those rears than I normally do. So it was definitely not the best audio experience that I could have had. But that said, it still is a pretty good audio track here. It's a 5.1 DTS HD master audio track. So if you have the yellow barcode, or when you get your replacement disc, you'll probably experience an even better audio experience than I had. So the explosions sound really good throughout they rumble throughout the house. I loved that aspect of it. I didn't have any problem hearing the dialogue, probably because it was coming from all around me. So it'll be interesting to see what the new disc, how that audio sounds. But yeah, I think even though there definitely is issues with the audio, it didn't kill it for me. And now, mind you, I am not an audiophile by any stretch of the imagination. And so if you are, that might bother you a little bit more. But for me, it was definitely watchable, but I am super interested to see how it sounds, how it improves with that replacement disc. So taking all of that into account. Oh, and one other thing. So I thought this was just my system, but I guess it's not. There is actually a little bit of a lip sync issue between the dialogue and the actors' mouths that you can notice. So like I said, I thought it was me, but I was reading online, and apparently this is kind of a known issue with this movie that has been there since the VHS release way back in the day. So I guess it's just something that they can't correct fully. Now, it's not terrible, but it was noticeable to me, so much so that I was adjusting like the audio delay on my soundbar to try to correct it, which I thought at points it was fixed, but then the movie would continue and I'd realize, no, it's still out of sync a little bit. So it's not the worst thing in the world, but if you are kind of keen on that, if you do notice that pretty easily, you'll probably notice it in this release a little bit as well. So with all of those factors at play, I am going to give Escape from LA 2 out of 5 stars on the audio side of things. Like I said, it didn't destroy the experience for me. I didn't even really notice it while I was watching the movie, other than I noticed that there was just too much sound coming from my rear speakers, but it didn't kill anything for me. So I think that if you have the other disc, that experience will be much better. So for my release, I'm giving it 2 out of 5 stars. This release really just is for fans only. If you think that Escape from LA is a 3.5 out of 5 star film like I do, and you already have the Blu-ray, maybe that's sufficient. Unless you really need that jump in visual fidelity, I don't know that this release is going to do much for you. So I'm happy that I added it to my collection because I didn't own the Blu-ray, and I'm trying to have all of Carpenter's films on Blu-ray or 4K. So this is another step in that direction, which I'm getting really close to having the whole thing. So I'm happy I added it, but I am a little bit disappointed in the release overall. No special features, a messed up disc thanks to my white barcode, and just was not blown away by the visual upgrade on this one, which again might just be my eyes. You might have a different experience, but for my money, I'm going to give the 4K release of Escape from LA 2.5 out of 5 stars. Alright, so those were my thoughts on the latest John Carpenter 4K upgrade, but I want to hear from you guys down in the comments below. 1, what do you think of Escape from LA? Do you love it? Do you hate it? I'm guessing more people dislike it than like it, but I would love to hear what your thoughts are on the film down below. And is this a 4K disc that you plan on adding to the collection? Or is this maybe a pass, or even wait for a sale? Which probably is the best way to go about it, frankly. But again, it's sub $20, so you're not spending a lot to get that upgrade in the visual quality. Even if it doesn't blow you away, it's definitely going to be better than what was available previously. So let me know down in the comments below any and all of your thoughts, and I would love to hear any other recommendations that you guys have for 4K reviews. Please leave those comments down below. That really does help me out, so thank you so much for all of that support. As always, guys, if you did enjoy this video though, please give it a like down below. That really does help me out. And like I always say, I don't just talk movies, I talk all things media, be it books, movies, video games, graphic novels, manga. If it's media related, I'm interested in it, and if you are too, you might consider subscribing. Alright guys, so that's going to do it for today. I just want to say thank you all so much for watching, and I want to encourage you to consume some media today. I'll catch you next time.